evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old friend Virgil back once again for another exciting episode of the podcast. As you guys know, the only podcast dedicated to the love and revival of our beloved drive-in culture. Joined as always by my co-host and general manager extraordinaire, Mark. Say hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend, and please tell them where you're coming from right now.
Coming to you live from the Mahoning Drive-In projection booth. Yeah, so if I sound a little extra echoey tonight, we have the wonderful acoustics of this lovely projection booth. And I gotta say, like, it's so wonderful to be back. I was just talking to Gene before I jumped on with you. Gene is a longtime supporter of the Mahoning. He also is our partner on Muppets Take Mahoning every single year, co-host of Beretta Brother, whatever, I could go on.
Award-winning children's book artist.
Yeah. But I said, like, the weight instantly lifts off of your shoulders. And, like, I've been so stressed with just, like, so much going on. So many balls up in the air, if you will, as the juggle continues. But, like, being here, it really does allow my mind to, like, focus. I forget about all the crazy madness that I got sucked up into in the off season. But yes, we are revved up and ready to rock, about a month away from the season starting. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited because the road show, what a success the road show was.
It's crazy.
We had a ball. I'm sure I've said it on the podcast, but some of the best times in this run were on stage with you. And we got to do it like tenfold this year. And we're already locking in dates for next year. So I don't know. You want to talk a little bit about the insane run that we just had?
It's crazy. I mean, as we record this, we have one more, but it's not like a full road show and it's sold out. So there's really kind of no pressure. We're just going to show up and have fun with the Deuce guys at that one. But it was 8 theaters in 5 states, 9 shows. I don't even know how many movies it was. We only repeated one film in 2 different venues. And it was just a ton of fun. It was meeting new friends at all of these theaters, becoming really good friends with the other theater managers and projectionists and film teams at all these other theaters and seeing how they run their operation and making great connections for additional help at our theater and additional film. We just picked up a film print the other day in Delaware. And, you know, for us, just feeding our hunger to visit classic single screen theaters and downtowns across the Northeast, and some newly remodeled and some looking like you step back in time. Most recently, we were at the Everett Theater in Middletown, Delaware, where Dead Poet Society was shot, and we got the Dead Poet Society tour of that theater. It's got to see the old carbon arc lamps, the old carbon arc projectors that are Simplex E7s like ours, but their lamp house is carbon arc, which is the way the Mahoning would have started back in 1949. And yeah, getting on stage and being goofy and throwing some information at people and talking to people and meeting people and seeing our customers who we haven't seen in 6 months and meeting new people, and maybe they'll come out and visit us and talking movies. I mean, we joke about Nuts for Knots, this idea that Daryl and Tom Fulco have had of a Don Knotts double feature, and we finally did half that. We did Ghost and Mr. Chicken and Munster Go Home at the Everett, and we met this lovely trio of ladies, a mother and her daughters, and they were literally nuts for knots. I mean, not like psychologically unbalanced, but they were big fans of Don Knotts, and they said, yeah, our dog is named Luther after his character in Ghost and Mr. Chicken. And I said, does the dog have bug eyes and shake a lot? And they said, you know, we named it as a joke, but actually, yeah, the dog really is a lot like Don Knotts. And they showed us a picture. Dog didn't really resemble Don Knotts, but yeah, the roadshow was so much fun, and it lets us sort of get back in fighting condition. It was literally like our road work to get back in shape to be doing the drive-in season, because it's programming shows, it's promoting shows, it's booking prints, it's meeting people, it's designing or helping to work out and design merch, and it was a blast. It was a bummer that it seemed to go by so quickly. I mean, it was a lot of miles. It was a lot of road time, you know, Philly to Boston and New York to Delaware and all that stuff. But I almost wish we had twice as many dates as we did.
Yeah, it was so special. The connection that we have with the audience and the widespread love. Like there were so many people that were like, I've been dying to make the trip to you, you know, like I've been following you for so long. So I think that just goes such a long way. And like you said, our whole initiative here with the podcast and what we do on the lot here is all about preserving the culture of the drive-in. And it really does extend to these indoor houses that are very much the same type of passionate folks that we are. So I think that's been the most rewarding thing, as we may have mentioned before, but the connections we've made with the people that run these theaters, also the talents that have kind of come out of the woodwork. We connected with the great Ian Frazier, who is doing a live drive-in organ show here to the Phantom of the Opera, which is going to be just such an awesome time. So yeah, gift that keeps on giving.
If anyone is interested in us coming to your town next year in 2026 for the Mahoning Drive-In Roadshow, first of all, your theater needs to have 35 millimeter capability, and it preferably is within a driving distance from our theater to you. Now, some people have said to us, man, come to New Orleans, come to San Antonio, come to LA. We would love to, but we pay for this show out of pocket. So if any of these theaters, if you have a theater near you that would be willing to like fly us out and pay for a hotel, we would love to do a show at an Alamo in Austin. But for now, we're kind of keeping it to somewhere that's sort of within the overall drivable radius. I think what you said this year was Somerville, from Pennsylvania to the Somerville in Boston was pretty much as far as we wanted to go away, and we pushed that in some areas. But we were looking for theaters to do next year. I believe we're going to be returning to most of the same theaters, but if we can make it work, we'd love to expand it.
Yeah, we've created a wonderful base for the show, and it creates this nice built-in promotion naturally for the season as we get ready to hit the ground running. We were handing out calendars and chatting up shows, teasing shows to people, which is always such a thrill. But yeah, adding to this, finding ways to make this bigger and better, just like we do on the Mahoning lot. I think that's just the natural way. So stay tuned as hopefully the roadshow continues to grow. And hats off again to you, Mark. Amazing job with the curation of the titles. You went above and beyond with just the nuts and bolts, I would say, the connections, the endless paperwork that comes with having to put on these shows with other entities.
And it was nice that we were able to pull in several of the team for this. You know, it was mostly you and me on the road just doing it. Nancy came out and helped, cover the table and stuff like that. But Tom Bafulco designed the event shirt and poster and the event poster for the Everett show, and which we have some of those left over. So those may wind up being sold at the theater or on the Crackerjack Posters site. Sandy helped us with the ordering of the shirts, and those are nice shirts. Like the color and the quality. I finally wore mine the other day, and like I didn't want to take it off. I'm like, it's a really nice shirt. Rob and Krista were there with helping us build an itinerary for the theaters. So the day before we got there, they would get a breakdown of all of the timing, where the prints would go, print coordination. Rob built the pre-shows, and he put something at the end of the pre-shows where at first I was like, well, that wasn't on my list, but it really was great. It's something I love. I'm not going to say what it is. And then it kept showing up, and it was like, this doesn't really fit in with the rest, but boy, does it bring the house down. And by like the third time we ran it, I think I said to him, this needs to be on every one of these at every show forever. It has to be like a certain thing that is in part of the Simplex members only screenings that everybody looks forward to, because that trailer was it was a great way to end it. So kudos to all of them. And a lot of the staff, like Donnie showed up at a few shows and helped with the table and just hung out. Beth and Jeff showed up. Sandy showed up. Sandy and Matt showed up at the first Nighthawk show of ours. So it was a way for us to see each other, who we haven't mostly seen in 6 months too. So kudos to everybody who is involved. We want to involve the staff as much as possible in the roadshow. It's just a lot of legwork and stand it up and yapping at people.
But yeah, of course, now we are shifting gears into the 2025 season, which we are now announcing shows. We're into June, almost into July. So we like to announce a good 3 months in advance. There's some shows that take a little extra massaging, or when we have to pivot because we hit a wall with print availability, rights availability, guest hopes, things like that. So I think we have a spectacular calendar this year. And it's funny because we found our footing over the last 10 years and what works and what doesn't work. And I remember in the early days, there was this question of like, could we make retro all the time work? But now I look at this calendar and it's like, I wish we could be open all the time.
There's still so much we haven't played. I mean, this is
Oh,
like 10 years in, and there are still a lot of movies that when you look at it, it's like the Exhumed 24-hour marathon where they run, a dozen movies overnight, and they've done it for a decade or more. And then you'll be like 8 or 10 years in, and you're like, really? They've never shown this film before? There's just so many movies. I mean, and we sort of limit ourselves to like, the 30s to the 90s. And boy, this season, there's a bunch of stuff we've never played.
and I think that's the goal for this year is raising the bar with some of these annual events, as we always try to do, bringing in new partners. Like I said, the connections that we made in the off season and people that came to the plate, whether they're fans of the Mahoning or the mission of the Mahoning. And yeah, I'm so excited to unveil some of this stuff on you guys.
We've yet to announce any of like the big partnerships yet that I'm like personally insanely thrilled about. So hopefully by the time we do the May calendar, I think there's one of those on the May calendar that we just locked this week. And then, oh boy, what do you see July?
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous. But yeah, we are going to review, as we always do, a portion of the calendar, our very first month, April. And it makes sense because Jeff used to always joke with me because I would print out the calendar for him of the ideas for the programming. And he would always inevitably lose April, that top page, but it wouldn't matter because it was really just that last week that we were open. So we have decided to open up a little bit early this year. And I think it's right in line with a lot of the drive-ins across the country with just their schedule. But it feels right opening up on April 11th with our standard Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka. And we got all sorts of icing for this thing this year. Last year, we were so excited to finally lock in Paris Themin, aka Mike TV from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And it just did not work out the year after COVID, because I remember he did a video for us and he sent us some signed golden tickets to give away. And there had been talks, and finally we locked him in for last year. And the unfortunate passing of Jeff had pushed his schedule back, so he wasn't able to make the rescheduled opening last year. So Paris will be in the house both days. We will have a photo op from Robbie's Balloons and More, who is just a wizard when it comes to his unique talent. Another thing that Mahoning always delivers on is the unique talents that come out of the woodwork. And Robbie,
his Freddy Krueger for the Freddy's 40th last year, he did a larger than life-size Freddy Krueger out of balloons. And it was like, you could tell it was Freddy Krueger, but it was like, it almost looked like a happy Muppet Freddy Krueger. It was very strange, but very wonderful.
It's chillier in the booth than I remembered. I hope I don't sound too like Chattertooth during this podcast.
He's developed a stutter over the course of the program.
Yeah.
And we're flipping the order of the films on Saturday because people often will say, I can't stay up or my kid can't stay up that late to see the second film. It was always traditionally chronological order. It was Wizard of Oz and then Willy Wonka. But I think it was last year, the year before, we started flipping it so that Friday night Wizard of Oz is first and Saturday night Willy Wonka is first.
It really works out this year because we'll have Paris in the house. So he is a super cool dude going back and forth. He actually just sent us a fun little promo video, and He's coming to play without a doubt. Loves his fans. And this is one of those movies that is undying, you know, the fandom for it. And we've been doing this now for 8 of the 10 years, maybe 9 of the 10 years that we've been doing this.
That sounds about right.
It really is the perfect tradition to build with your family. And that was the whole idea behind it, was something that mirrored the excitement waiting for Wizard of Oz to play around the holidays on television. And we have now seen families grow and kids grow up with us to every single year they'll come back. So it's just a great weekend. I don't know. What are some of your kind of besides seeing everybody, you know, I think that might be the greatest aspect of opening, finally getting everybody on the lot. But what's your kind of standouts for opening weekend?
It feels like you're back home again for a lot of us who work there, and I think for a lot of the customers too. And it's like a big reunion. It's seeing people. I think a lot of people come out who are regulars for the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, who they're there to see everybody and to be back in that space and back in that groove, almost more than seeing the movies. The movies look great on that screen. And that's certainly part of it. And part of it is just loving these movies from our childhoods. But I think a lot of it is just like it's a welcome back. You know, it feels like a big party. There's a lot of hugs. There's a lot of smiles. There's a lot of thrills and chills. And it's basically it's hopping on board that runaway train that's slowly beginning to leave the station on opening weekend. And it just, I mean, and it literally, the runaway train goes crazy the day after this show. So it's just like it's just so much fun, and it's just a warm fuzzies all around. And they're two great movies that, you know, working at the theater, you're often, especially if it's a busy night, you're kind of too busy to actually be able to watch the movies. But these movies are so burned into your brain, just hearing them, it's a really cozy place to be.
And we actually have some added additions for opening weekend. If you follow us on the socials, there is a family that came to us as vendors last year, the Workman family. And Tyler created these amazing retrofitted drive-in speakers. And he has been hard at work in the off season. And I think he's up to, I think he said 40 of them. So we're going to try to have these babies available. He's going to set up a table. And I told him, I was like, you are not going to be able to keep up. Like branded Mahoning classic drive-in radios. It's just, it's a next level of creativity and awesome. So
he and his daughter showed up at the Everett show in Delaware at the Road Show, and they had they presented us with a couple. They gave us one and showed us one. And originally he was taking vintage metal drive-in speakers that you would hang on your window, like everybody always asks about when they say, "Oh yeah, drive-ins." And he has opened them up, and inside them he put a radio that you can tune to whatever the radio station is, and a little light up display, and they're really cool with a little antenna. So you don't need a wire, but you can still use them to listen to the movie, or you can use them at home to listen to the radio or whatever. He now is doing 3D printed, as you said, so he can add a little flair to those. So he gave us one, and on the front it had the Mahoning Drive-In logo, and it had 89.3 down lower on the front of it. And then on the back he had the Mahoning Drive-In radio logo, which is Tom Bafulco's art of you, Jeff, and I, with the you know, the name on it on the back of the speaker. But he also had one that I believe his daughter painted, and it was Mahoning. It was opening weekend themed. And it was amazing. I was pulling everybody over who was at that show who knew our theater. I was like, you have to look at this, because it had a yellow brick road painted on it, and it had I think it had Willy Wonka painted on it, and the Mahoning arrow, and it's just some really fabulous work. So I wouldn't be surprised if they find themselves like taking orders and being busy all season with this.
Very excited for opening weekend. It is a sign of the season too. I think as thinking back as a kid, which we've talked about on stage now over and over and over again, this excitement of the weather's about to turn, you're getting closer to summer. Like I still have that inside of me when drive-in season starts to get close and rev up. So we're hoping that we luck out, as we have many seasons, with the beautiful weather, even though We're opening up a little bit early before Easter this year. So, and in true Mahoning fashion, we open up with our tradition family fare, and then we make a hard right turn into our halfway to Halloween celebration, which is also an ode to the late, great Tony Todd. You know him as Candyman, which we will be featuring on 35 millimeter, along with our halfway to Halloween vendor market. And I'm trying to remember what we did last. Oh, I know. We did Freaks last year, and we did Freaked the year before. Am I right?
I believe, yeah, that sounds about right.
So yeah, these vendor markets have been an amazing way to bring the creativity to the lot. It really does connect us with a lot of people. They love coming out and sharing their wares, and the audience gets a little extra icing. Like, what is cooler than coming to a themed show than like getting the themed eats from Mama Beth, getting the themed merch from Sandy, and being able to shop themed vendors? So expecting this one to be a big, big celebration. A lot of people do pick and choose what's going to be their first as far as their trip back to the Mahoning. And a lot of people really excited about that one. I will admit it, Candyman is one of those movies that I saw at the perfect time, maybe too young, and really, really worked on me. The idea of seeing this on the massive Mahoning screen with a crowd on a themed Halloween night, it's just going to be perfect. What are your memories with this movie? I mean, it was that thing I feel that was like passed around every schoolyard. You know, the people would be talking about it. And my first exposure to it was definitely a rental from the local mom and pop.
Mine was in the theater. I didn't know at the time. I was in college, and my weekends were spent going to my local video store and renting a stack of movies and hitting matinees. So I would get up and I would. I may have mentioned this before. This is April 13th, by the way, in case we didn't mention. Just so if you want to know when to go and get the bejesus scared out of you, I would get up in the morning. I would walk to the local McDonald's. I would have breakfast. I would go to our local 6-screen multiplex, and I would see 2 matinees, and then I would go back and watch movies. So I went and saw Candyman as a matinee when it came out. I didn't know much about it. I knew that it was a new horror movie, and I tried to see like everything I could. So I went in. I think I had heard it was based on a Clive Barker story, and boy, is it disturbing and creepy. That whole opening where the whole idea of Candyman is that if you say the name Candyman X number of times in front of a mirror, he'll appear behind you, and it won't be a good result for you. And that he haunts this housing project in Cabrini Green in inner city Chicago. And there are scenes in these apartments where there's like a hole cut out in the apartment, and it's just like you're waiting for something to reach out and damage somebody. And there's a scene in a public restroom that's very disturbing. And it's Virginia Madsen and Tony Todd, and it's really, really creepy and really, really good. They made 2 sequels that I never saw. Then they did like a remake, reboot, sequel, whatever you want to call it, a few years ago that was interesting. But for me, it comes down to when you say Candyman, I think of this movie, and I guess they did some other stuff too. But for me, Candyman is this movie with Tony Todd, and it's really good if you've never seen it. It's
and don't think we didn't consider it and to look into
somebody did say you play all
because
3, and it's just like, why would you just want to have progressive disappointment over the course?
I know, and that's what the real balance is. Like, would it be really fun to promote that as Candyman, Candyman, Candyman? Hell yeah! But it really is. It's leaning into that piece that put Tony Todd on the map, and we are going to show a little highlight reel of Tony Todd's work. And he is so much more than Candyman, but the thing that I love about Tony Todd and the convention scene was he just leaned into it. He loved the idea that he had a character that stood the test of time. And, you know, when you talk about the Mount Rushmore of horror heads and horror characters, it's tough to not put Tony on that list. So really excited to be able to celebrate him, and again do it in such a cool way with the 35 mil presentation, the vendors, the theme. It's going to be a really fun time. Some of you guys might be wondering, hey, are they doing Thursdays this year? Are they bringing back their Thread Up Thursday? Yes, we are. The Thursday Thread Up returns. And right out of the gate, it's like, can you hear that bass thumping? Dum, 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 dum. What is that, Mark? Dum, 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 dum. Flash! That's right.
I do that all the time to Val's great annoyance. I'll just say some word and then go, ah.
Yeah, out of the blue.
What would you like to eat? I think I'd like to eat beets. Ah. They'll beat every one of us. That doesn't sound good.
Yes, Flash Gordon on 35 millimeter, kicking off our Thursday Thread Up series. And we played this, but we played it so long ago. I want to say it must have been 2017. And yeah, this is one of those movies that is meant to be seen on a drive-in screen. It means so much to so many people when you talk about cult fandom. This comes right to mind. But where are you at with Flash Gordon? What's your experience with Flash?
I've got a story. If you want to hear the story in full, go back to the beginning of the podcast. I think it was episode 7. It was like my pilot episode that I did alone to sort of say, well, this is what this podcast could be. And I told the story of how I didn't see this movie at the drive-in as a kid. So I won't say it again. I'll say go back and listen to that because I've got music and sound effects and stuff. But I did not see this movie at the drive-in as a kid back in 1980. And I started to, let's say, I saw the opening credits. If I'm there on Thursday, April 17th, 2025, and I watch Flash Gordon at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, I will have made come true something that is, oh my God, 45 years in the making. I will finally have seen Flash Gordon. I can't believe it's been 45 years that I've done anything, that I'll finally have seen Flash Gordon at a drive-in. I never saw it in the theater when it came out, which is part of that story. I caught it on cable and thought it was really cool. And it's one of those movies that was not a big hit when it came out, but over the years it's become gigantic. And that Queen soundtrack is fabulous. The visuals are amazing. The cast is amazing. I saw this on film at the Alamo Draft House in Austin right as the pandemic hit, and it was the original Alamo. And I think they closed. My timing might be off, but I think they closed like the next day for the pandemic, and they never reopened. So the last time I saw this was that screening, and it's just so much fun on a big screen. It's a movie I always thought would pair well with Barbarella if we ever
you pitched together. And again, we considered it.
It's got the same vibe. It's Dino De Laurentiis producing
comic
it.
Book come to life. It really has
so
that
fun.
Super surrealism, and it really is a great movie, standalone movie as well. We talked about the Sam Jones documentary, which was so well done.
Yep.
And we might even still try to connect with those filmmakers and see if maybe we can't get a fun intro or connect them somehow. But yeah, the lore behind Flash Gordon is deep. The love for Flash Gordon is deep. Certainly came to me in the video store era, maybe even the cable era, right before my time as far as in the theaters. But my true connection to this was I was in a Tenacious D cover band called the Cape and Scepter in high school. And we used to perform at open mics and stuff like that. And when the Tenacious D live concert came out, they did a fun cover of the Flash Gordon opening. So we used to cover it as well. And it's one of those jams that just lives rent free in my brain. So really excited for that one. Perfect way to kick off Thursdays.
Brian Blessed. That's all I have to say.
And then what do we have after that? Oh, yes. Break it down for him, Mark.
At long last, we devote 2 days, April 18th and 19th, to the master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, with Hitchcock Till You Drop.
Yes. One of those events that the title is worth doing the weekend alone. Really excited for what this t-shirt is going to be. But yeah, we are trying to hit as many of and it's so hard. Like, what do you play? It's like our Tom Hanks weekend.
No matter what we play, somebody's like, yo, you should play this one. You ought to play that one. Why didn't you play this one? And the answer is, if this does well enough, we'll absolutely do it again, because he has enough to keep doing this for a while.
Yes. Friday the 18th, we kick things off with The Birds, followed by Rear Window. Saturday, we got Psycho, followed by Vertigo. And again, for me, for my buck, as the programmer, that's the way to play it. Could we have thrown in some extra spice? Yes, for sure. Could there have been other ways that we went? Yes, for sure. But that Friday lineup leaning into that Saturday lineup is just going to be a building of suspense that Hitchcock would be so proud of.
And really, Rear Window on the big screen is the best. I mean, any movie, the big screen is the better way to see it. But Rear Window is Jimmy Stewart looking into all these little windows across the way, and to see them so giant sized, it's just you can see what's going on in those rooms better. You can see the guy at the piano that he is Ross Bagdasarian, aka David Seville, the man who created the Chipmunks.
The love for Hitchcock runs super deep. I'm trying to think back. I know we have done Psycho several times. We did it for the Roadshow last year as well. One of those, I think, drive-in staples. It's as much of a in rotation movie as Night of the Living Dead is, you know?
Well, that was one of the best moments of the road. I mean, the road show last year was 3 dates, but at the Barrymore Film Center, somebody came up to us and he said he saw Psycho at the drive-in. And when they were driving home late at night from the theater, there was a police roadblock where they were stopping all the cars, and a policeman leaned in, and this guy's father asked, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh yeah, a mental patient escaped from a local asylum and he's on the loose." And it's just like, you just watched Psycho, and and then you're told there's a mental patient on the loose. That was just
talk about a 4D experience. Yeah. You're like, get me out of here. But yeah, we played Psycho 2 as well that night, and oh my God, brought the house down. It's just like an amazing, underrated gem of a film. But I'm trying to think back. The exposure to Hitchcock, definitely Nick. I guess it would have been Nick at Night that played the old Hitchcock episodes.
Alfred Hitchcock Presents, yeah, which is a great 30-minute black and white anthology crime show, mystery show.
Yeah, which that was a huge part of my childhood. A lot of the, I say, old soul in me came from watching these classic sitcoms and era specific material. But the Discovery, I believe it was Birds first. I have this memory of watching the Birds with my mom and one of my aunts. But it flipped me out. The idea that, you know, something you never think about, the birds flying around, becoming the threat. But I think the deeper dive into it is just such a great story, you know, that these birds kind of went insane because of the, what exactly is it that they, something,
I don't remember.
Fish or something like that?
I don't think it gets explained in the original film. It was based on a book by Daphne du Maurier, and I don't know if it talks about it in the book, but I feel like part of the terror in that film is that we don't know why. They just suddenly start attacking people. And then, you know, toward the end of the movie, you don't know if the birds have gotten it out of their system or if they're just like, they've now put us in our place.
Yeah. And, you know, you ask people what their favorite Hitchcock film is, and for a lot of people, that film rises to the top. Definitely saw the Birds first. That led me to Psycho. And I don't think that I saw some of the deeper cut stuff until I got this VHS box set like years and years ago that had a bunch of Hitchcock cuts, but of course the classics. And just went down that rabbit hole, and the appreciation and love. It's like that appreciation and love for Sergio Leone when you first discover him, you know. What was your exposure to Hitch?
My father was a big movie guy. Like, I mean, he was a working class, normal, manly man, but he liked movies. So he would always, at the time, there were a couple of stations I loved. There were Boston stations, or Channel 56 and 38, and every night they would have an 8 o'clock movie. And he often was just watching whatever he preferred on those, and they would air. So I saw Psycho that way. He told me, "Oh, this one's really good," and it was shocking because at the age I saw that at, wasn't really into horror movies. So the surprises in Psycho were surprises. Now our culture has ruined it repeatedly for people. Maybe people are sort of like programming their own reality enough now that everybody doesn't share the same culture like they used to. So all the references to Psycho and to, who the killer is and all that maybe have faded a bit. But Psycho was a shock the first time I saw it. And then I saw the rest. Universal had this syndicated package where I feel like the Hitchcock movies were really hard to see for a while because I've seen movie posters where I think it was like 83 or so. A lot of them got theatrical re-releases because for some reason they had been out of circulation and you couldn't book them for a long time. And then they came to TV after that. So that's where I saw Rear Window and Vertigo and Trouble with Harry and Rope. And it was like a week of Hitchcock movies or two that certain independent TV stations did. So I saw them all that way. When I was in college, I took a class on Hitchcock, and Dark Side of Genius, I think, was the book that was like the book biography that we read that the class was based around. And I got to see a lot of his earlier films, his British films, the silent films and all that. So I'm like pretty well versed in Hitchcock. And, to call the guy a master, it's like, duh now, but they were so perfectly constructed in terms of the editing and the music and the shots and the performances and the twists and the reveals. And, him working with Jimmy Stewart was like, Scorsese working with De Niro. He worked with him repeatedly, and he was just this great everyman. So the slightly vulnerable Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window, this photographer who's laid up with a broken leg, and he's using his camera lens to spy on his neighbors and concoct little fanciful stories about their lives, and then suddenly he witnesses a murder. And then the obsessed sort of tough guy, vulnerable tough guy lawman in Vertigo, where he falls for a woman and the woman dies, and then he thinks he sees her again. I don't want to give away anything about any of these movies, but
I so hope that it's the perfect weekend to bring your family, because yes, are these movies suspenseful,
murder,
scary? Yes, but it really, just like Universal Monsters, I fully expect people to use this weekend to pass the torch.
I think they're so well constructed. Like, I have a friend of mine, and he has kids who are like teenagers now, but he'll show them older movies, and he's always reluctant because they're modern kids. But he'll tell us in the group chat we have, he's like, such and such, it worked because it's such a well-made movie. They quickly got over the fact that it's 30, 40, 50 years old. And I think that's the case with these. Like, they take longer to get going than a modern film would, but once they do, hold on. I mean, The Birds is, I don't know how any kid could watch The Birds and be bored once The Birds start attacking people. Especially if you don't know that, because it's just some movie and it's some kind of romantic thing. And then all of a sudden, wow, why did that bird do that? And then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. And the perfect way to just get ready for the holiday, Easter. Easter's following.
Have the sorrowful mystery of Vertigo on your brain when you wake up on Easter morning the next day.
Yes. And again, one of those rises to the top. A lot of people said, oh, I will see you that weekend, whether it's their first trip back or second or third.
It's a much requested weekend. Some certain people, I mean, our friend, regular and friend Jay has been asking for Hitchcock for years. A lot of people have. And again, what we always say is not just to get people to show up, but if it does well, you can pretty much expect we'll do it again. If it does really poorly, it might be a while before we do it again. So hopefully with this lineup, I don't know how it's going to do a heck of a lot better than it could with this lineup.
We are taking the night off the following night for Easter Sunday, but we will be back the following Thursday, which would be the 24th, for I guess it would be rare, screening of the 1996 Romeo and Juliet on 35 millimeter. This is one I'm really, really excited about. As a lot of you guys know, the 90s films are right in my wheelhouse, but another title was in place here, and this kind of hits the same notes, but the idea of shining a light on, again, a more modern cult film, obviously a modern telling of a classic play by a little known dude named Bill Shakespeare. I don't know if anybody's familiar. But this was that movie when I was in school that was like the ultimate cool. Everybody loved it. The soundtrack was amazing. Kids were handing around the soundtrack CD to each other. And it just, the idea of revisiting this on the massive Mahoning screen, a movie that is so beautiful. And I am not ashamed of my love for Baz Luhrmann. So to be able to shine a light on and bring a Baz film to the big screen Really excited about that. Is this one that you caught in the theaters?
This was one that did not appeal to me at the time. This was 96, you say?
96.
Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't anything I wanted to see at the time. I've not seen the majority of Baz Luhrmann films because overall his style doesn't appeal to me. I loved his Elvis movie,
Yeah.
which I was surprised. I didn't really know what I was going to feel about that, but I really liked that. Yeah, this just isn't my bag. This is Leonardo DiCaprio and
Claire Danes.
Claire Danes, exactly. And it's sort of like it takes the warring families idea of Shakespeare and turns it into warring like crime families, which it
Yeah, it
basically
takes it to the modern suburbs. Yeah.
And is it like the beach in California? Like I just remember what I saw in the trailer that I watched not that long ago.
Yeah, it's basically, yeah, the retelling in a modern setting. And it is like a cityscape, but one of those movies again where my head goes is that soundtrack, which meant so much to me. It was like the soundtrack to that entire year. But
That was huge. I remember at the time, yeah, seeing copies of that everywhere.
John Leguizamo, amazing cast. So yeah, if you guys are into this type of stuff and you want to see us bring this type of stuff to the Mahoning, come on out. I want to say what the other title was that we were going to sneak in, but I'm still trying to bring it later in the season. So we will see how that all lands. Finally, we've been doing this now for 11 years. This is our 11th year doing this. And we have never shown Rocky Horror Picture Show. So we are doing it in a big, bad way on April 25th and 26th with the Rocky Horror Drive-In Picture Show. Not only do you get Rocky Horror on original 35 millimeter, you get shock treatment on original 35 millimeter. So excited to finally be able to do this. And when you talk about the Mahoning, you're talking about a fan space, a space that celebrates cult film, and to not celebrate arguably the biggest cult film on the planet is just criminal. So we're really excited to do it. Rocky Horror, again, just like Romeo and Juliet, that soundtrack lives rent-free in the brain. The music is amazing. The performances are iconic. The cast is out of this world. One of those films that certainly lived on repeat in the house, and when I became a theater kid was everything. Shock Treatment, the lesser known, lesser loved sequel, but in true Mahoning fashion, you get a double feature. What's a better way to complete this fandom night than to do the double bubble? Where are you at with Rocky Horror? And I say this with real wonder because for those who may have listened to our episode with lot manager Dave, he is an ex-performer. And a lot of people seem to have that history with Rocky Horror, even ones you wouldn't expect. They're like, oh, for years shadow casting it. So where are you at?
So what you're saying is you ask this question with anticipation.
Gonna be a lot of that, yeah.
I had heard about Rocky Horror for years. Growing up, it was impossible to see. It only existed as a midnight movie on film in a theater. It was not on video. It was not on TV. Occasionally, like Siskel and Ebert would do like a retrospective of, midnight movies or something, and you'd see a clip of it or you'd see a clip of the time warp somewhere, but you could not see it. It did not come out on video until 1990, I want to say. It was either the 10th or the 15th anniversary of the film was when it finally got a VHS release, and it was a really big deal. So I wanted to see it so bad. I rented it, and I was like, I love this. And then I went out and I found the soundtrack, and I found the audience participation album, and I found as much as I could get my hands on. And I legitimately love the movie. I've heard a lot of people say, well, it's only good with the audience participation in the shadow cast. And I'm like, no, I think it's a funny movie.
Oh, it's
really well. The music is really good. Like I was listening to it again while I was writing the blurb for the event, and I realized I know all the words to all these songs, and I love them. And so I really love Rocky Horror. I've seen it with the audience participation in the past, and that's fun too. That's a whole other thing. That's really just like a party with a film playing. And it's amazing. It's an amazing story how this film that was not a success became a midnight movie, and people started to kind of mock it, and then they had fun with it, and then it became this devoted following where that movie has not stopped playing midnight shows since 1975. Shock Treatment I rented. It came out on tape in the U.S. That was actually easier to see than Rocky Horror. Shock Treatment had been out on tape long before Rocky was. And I didn't like it the first time I watched it. It takes place after Rocky Horror. Brad and Janet are played by different people. In the original film, it's Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon, and in Shock Treatment, it's Jessica Harper from Suspiria and Phantom of the Paradise and Cliff DeYoung, and they're like kind of burnouts and not happy. And some of the same cast comes back, but Tim Curry doesn't. But it's all different characters, and it's basically a very ahead of its time spoof of reality TV, where the entire town of Denton, Texas, where Brad and Janet are from, they're all in a TV studio where they like live, and they live for all these fake reality shows and game shows and dramas. And I saw it again a few years later, and I kind of liked it. Once I realized, okay, it's different characters, it's different actors. And I really like the music in this movie. So I love Shock Treatment. I know a lot of people. Young Clark is a huge fan of Shock Treatment. He's been asking for it.
It certainly has its fans, but it has the hard bar to jump. People naturally want to compare it to something that is incomparable to really anything. And I just love the passion of Rocky Horror fans. It is a perfect crossover with what it means to be a Mahoning fan and what it means to be just a cinema fan and movie fan in general. Now, I will say we have gotten so many emails from Shadowcast being like, hey, do you want us to come in and Shadowcast? I personally think that the Shadowcast works much better in an indoor environment. The way that our screen is set up and situated, the way that we have our audience enjoy the films here, I think it would be hard to organize it in a way that wasn't distracting for the people that just want to watch the movie. And it doesn't mean that when we do this again, inevitably, that we won't give that a shot. But for this year, I think the idea and the celebration behind it was A, first time we're playing it, B, we got the original 35, so we can do it legit, and we're going to celebrate the films.
And really, the Mahoning way is to do something differently. So we're doing what everybody else isn't doing. We're not having a Shadowcast.
It was so hard.
If you want to show up in costume, please do. If you want to come out and let your freak flag fly, please do. The whole point of Rocky Horror is being who you are and being celebrated and accepted for being who you are. And that's what we're all about. So please come out and have a great time. I was joking that we should just invite all the Shadowcast just to perform in front of, groups of like 3 cars.
That would be the best. Like
we've been approached by so many. You really wouldn't see them if they were doing it under our screen. The screen is so high up. And the whole idea of a Shadowcast is that you do it literally in front of the screen so that
it would be impossible.
You wouldn't see it. You would have to throw lights on them at night, which would ruin the experience. It just wouldn't work for us, for our screen. So I'm really excited for that show because I love those 2 movies. I've never seen them back to back. It is incredibly rare to see Shock Treatment play anywhere, but let alone on film. Probably not a glorious Technicolor print of Shock Treatment, from what I understand. It's more like the rarity of being able to see this on a giant screen.
Hell yeah. And I love when there's a lure that comes with a print where people are like, hey,
the print.
Condition are, what the condition is. I caught this print when I was out in LA, So I love that idea of we're going to see what we get and we're all in this together, and to talk about a perfect way to celebrate the films. We are going to be releasing details of the costume contest. It's going to be multiple characters, multiple different categories. So we're really excited to invite the insane fandom to come and take over the Mahoning lot, as they often do.
And to do the time warp again.
Yes, we're finally here. And then we shift gears. Our Sunday night on the 27th, our final event of April, we are introducing a new series, the Master Carpenter series. That's right. He is a master. His last name is Carpenter. The great John Carpenter, ode to John Carpenter in little bite sizes. Now, kicking things off with Big Trouble in Little China on 35 millimeter. Ah, talk about a soundtrack that lives in my brain. Certainly themes that live in my brain. We have played this several times, always brings the house down. Of course, classic Kurt Russell Carpenter combo. And it was tough. Like, what do we play right out the gate with this new series? But this is one that I feel like is the perfect Mahoning movie. And I know people are going to come and celebrate it. This is one that definitely was VHS era. And I didn't really appreciate it, I think, until I got a little bit older. It was never my favorite Carpenter when I was younger, but over time, of course, has risen on that list. Where are you at with Big Trouble?
I love it. I love it. It was one that, again, like a lot of Carpenter movies, frankly, it was not that popular when it came out. It was maybe ahead of its time in its sci-fi kung fu mashup, but I've grown to love it. Like, I had a friend in college who was a big Carpenter fan, big Kurt Russell fan, and he got us into it. So we watched it a lot in college, and we realized this is an insanely quotable movie. The music is great. It's just nuts with this, again, James Hong as this 100-something or multiple 100-year-old Chinese wizard kung fu master with a kung fu army, and Carter Wong, who is a legit Hong Kong martial arts movie legend or star at least, and Kim Cattrall, well before Sex in the City, Dennis Dunn, who would go. I initially knew him from the Midnight Caller TV show, but he's great in this. And if you want to have a lot of fun, find the audio commentary with John Carpenter. And it is as fun as the movie is and as funny. And they point out that Jack Burton, the ostensible hero of this film, is not the hero. The Dennis Dunn Wang, he is the hero of this movie. Jack Burton is really the sidekick, and he's an idiot. He thinks he's John Wayne. He talks like John Wayne, but he's a fool. He doesn't really do anything of too much of note to advance the plot in the movie. It's really his friend who does everything, but it's so great. It's so badass. And there's a line in it that I'm not going to say what it is if you've never seen the movie. But there's a line in it where Kurt Russell is almost like run down in a parking garage, and he says something, what he's going to do to this person, let's say. And I said to Dave, when people roll up to the gate that night, if they don't have prepaid tickets, you need to lean into the car and say that line to everybody. And also, I saw this movie on film at the Alamo Drafthouse Yonkers several years ago. It was a thing called Russellmania, and it was like a 6-movie Kurt Russell marathon. And it's great. I still have the hat. And they ran this movie, and it was a studio print, hopefully not the one we're getting. And there was a splice, and it removed that line that I was like waiting.
Wow.
I wanted to hear everybody erupt with laughter, and I was getting ready to laugh reflexively because I know the line, and it was gone. It was just like, whoa. So anyway, I love Big Trouble in Little China. Fabulous soundtrack, as you say. Amazing movie. Great martial arts. It's got James Hong in it.
Come on. Yes. Really excited to kick off that series in style. And like I said, so much to look forward to when it comes to the calendar. These partnerships that we have locked in, that we are looking to take to the next level. So excited to unveil this on you guys. So stay tuned to the socials for really at least every other day, if not more. We are pumping out these events so we can establish the calendar well in advance. And we worked with a lot of calendar houses during the road show. And if you don't think that influenced us, and we made the connections for some rare prints, we actually were able to acquire a few prints that we are going to display from the Mahoning Vault this year. So really excited about that. God, do you constantly find that you have to bite your tongue when you're with people, Mark?
I want to tell people, because there's some really exciting things that we're doing, at least exciting to me.
Yeah.
We always joke that we program certain shows for ourselves. There's a couple shows that are really programmed for us, or I feel like it is. We bought a print in Delaware at the Everett Theater show. And if you can get to the Everett Theater, if you can get to any of the theaters that you saw us visit on the road show, we highly full-fledged endorse all of them. They're amazing theaters with amazing staffs, and they're just worth the trip however far it is. At the Everett, we bought a print that, as far as I know, nobody else has. Nobody else has. And it's a thing we've been trying to book, and when I looked at all the usual suspects who have prints, nobody else had it. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be hard to find. And then somehow we found it, and you thought you were renting it, and apparently you were purchasing it. So
we own it now, baby.
You told me that. I was like,
what? It's all who you know. Yeah, that's the again, another added perk to being involved here at the Mahoning is it's just a magnet for people who want to support what we do and really have spent their lives just as passionate about film and collecting and all that stuff. So really excited to be able to unveil the future calendar on you guys. What we have done this year through the socials, if you want to go back, we have teased some key dates. We get emails constantly from people saying, hey, when is Camp Blood? Hey, when is VHS Fest? Hey, when are you guys doing Universal Monsters? So what we're trying to do is tease some of those shows and let you know when they're going to be. That way you guys can at least try to plan ahead a little bit. So good 3 months at least for a lot of these events. So stay tuned. And I can say it. I mean, we got to say it before we go out, Mark. So for the last couple of years, we have been doing a Patreon membership program. Now, I think one of the greatest perks of the Patreon membership is the on-site screenings that we do, private screenings for our Simplex top tier members on Patreon. And they actually have gotten a show the day before we open the last couple years. So Mark, can you just give a quick brief, like here, if you guys want to get in and get some extra action this year, now is a great time to jump in on the Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon, if you don't know, if you haven't heard us talk about it, is a subscription program that is either $4.99, $9.99, or $19.99 a month. And you can also now pay for a year, which is a new thing that they offered. And I think there's a little bit of a discount if you want to go ahead and buy a year. And what you get with that is various things. At the very basic things, you get everything that we post, or basically everything that we post on the Patreon page. And that's like tickets a day or so before they go on sale to the public, advance notice about things, exclusive podcasts, exclusive videos. If we have video intros on screen at any point during the season, those all go to Patreon. If we have guests on the lot, we try to record their intros or their Q&As and things like that and put it on there. And if you're a top tier member of Simplex, you get an enamel pin every year, different design every year, and those never get sold or given out to anybody else. After the year is gone, nobody gets them. And then you have the monthly screenings. So starting the day before we open, we've been doing this. So the first people who get a chance to be back on the lot are the Simplex members, and it's a single feature, usually a single feature, 35 millimeter from our vaults or a collector friend's vault, usually really obscure deep dish stuff that you're not going to see anywhere else, and things that have probably not hit the Mahoning screen since they were originally released, or if ever. And those things tend to span, let's say, 50s to 80s, sweet spot of the drive-in era, plus original trailers and weird trailers. And a lot of times if we get new material, we'll play them for the Simplex Patreon screenings first, so we all find out together what condition it's in and if it's fun or whatever. Most of the time it is. And also out of that grew a monthly virtual screening for the Simplex members. So usually it's, the last Thursday of the month, unless there's an Exhumed show there, is the Simplex 35 millimeter screening. And then usually the Wednesday before that is the virtual screening. Those are great because if you can't make it out to our Thursday screenings, or if you live really far away or on the other side of the country or world, you can join us with those. And those are things that we license from the AGFA library, and I put together a pre-show that approximates what you might see at the drive-in. So it's like 20 minutes of trailers and snack bar ads and stuff like that. And then you can all chat along in the group chat as we go. It's a lot of fun. No matter what level you're on, it's a way to have fun in the off season and have that sense of community when you can't be with us. And we share things there that don't go to our social medias. So it's a fun little community. It's several hundred strong. It goes year round. So the Patreon of the drive-in is always there for you. And I try to make it as fun and as worth every penny as I possibly can, because I like to make it the kind of thing that I would pay for, and I'm cheap.
You hit it on the nose, my friend. All about community. And this Mahoning in general is its own community. This is a hyper-focused community. So yeah, if you guys are into that, check us out. Great way to support the theater, and make sure we keep on doing our thing.
And that is the thing too, that it was partly designed so that we would have an income stream in the off season, because we have a lot of things that are monthly recurring bills 6 months out of the year that we're not open and not selling tickets and things like that. So
Yeah.
occasionally there's exclusive apparel that you can only get through there too. But it's been, and we thank all of our Patreon members because it allows us to pay for the electricity that still draws at the theater and all of the professional memberships that we have to pay for, and the Zoom that we're using right now to record this and to do the virtual shows, and the storage for our film vault. I mean, there's a lot of expenses, and we're able to mostly cover that thanks to you Patreon folks.
You guys are the best.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.
We love you all. We cannot wait to see you on the Mahoning lot. For those of you guys listening from afar, and we get these emails and we run into you guys in the road show, eventually that event is going to call your name. Make the journey. Your soul will be better for it. As I always say, you have to work to get to the cool. You have to work to get those experiences in your life. So we are so blessed at this moment in time with so many amazing theaters and partners that we work with. And you have a plethora on any given night, any given weekend to support them. The future of the cinematic landscape, it's rich, and it's going to be made up of a lot of these independent theaters. So do your part, support everybody, and yeah, we will see you guys on the lot very soon. Oh, the countdown begins. Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.